For example, near LaSalle, Utah, here are perfectly modern human bones 50 feet down in the Dakota sandstone, the same formation that you find at Dinosaur National Monument. This Dakota sandstone is famous for its dinosaurs. Well, they must have fallen down a crack in the rock. No, we don't have to find the crack. You just know that has to happen. Or they crawled back in a cave that collapsed on them. Of course, there are no broken bones. Well, maybe they were mining and it collapsed on them. Again, no broken bones. We've got 10 of these skeletons now, and 5 of them were males, 4 of them were females, 1 was an infant, and no tools and no broken bones. It doesn't sound like a mine cave-in to me. But whatever, it has to be an intrusional burial because we know humans and dinosaurs didn't live together. And so the real key phrase in this statement is if it's well verified. And guess what? It ain't going to be verified. Whatever it takes, it won't be. Well, we've done a good bit of work at this site. We went back to see if it could be well verified. This is near LaSalle, Utah, about 25 miles south of Moab. And it's an open pit copper mine. And about where you see the backhoe is where most of the skeletons were found, a little bit to the left and then at that spot. And here you can see they're still embedded in the rock in the process of being removed 50 feet down in this layer. That one was articulated as in life. This one is just washed into place. The 2 bones there near the center that look like they go together, they really don't. They're just washed together, pile of bones. Most of them are replaced with malachite, which shows that this is not a recent burial. It's not just a staining, as some have claimed. Some of them are 100% replaced, though most fossils are not 100%. And not all of these are 100%, but some of them are. There's no collagen. The standard rule is it takes at least 1,000 years for the collagen to disappear. And so we're looking here at one of those turvy fossils. We'll call the other ones Topsy. These would be the turvy fossils. Is it possible they fell down a crack? Well, we talked to Dale Fuller, who was the one who was driving the bulldozer when this was initially uncovered, and he showed us exactly where this happened. He said there was no breaks in the rock at all. He didn't see any, and it had been taken down. This is a side view. And this is the area where, back in the 30s, they began mining here, and actually his father drove the bulldozer at this point, and they hit a layer that was so hard it was tearing up the bulldozer, and they had to stop, though it was a profitable copper mine. And then in the 70s, developed better equipment, better techniques, and then came on down to this level in the 70s. And at that point, in the early 70s, is when the first 2 were found. And then in the early 90s, we found a good many more. Looking at a diagram of this cross-section, we see the mining operation of the 30s and the 70s. The road cut was cut in the 30s, so that before the 30s, that all went straight across. And the skeletons were found right here. 50 feet down, and before 1930, this was the profile. When you look at the state of replacement, and there have been a number of radiocarbon dates ranging anywhere from, one says 200, though it was right in the middle of a spring, obviously contaminated, all the way up to 4,000, 1,500. It ranges all over the place, so I think it's obviously contaminated. But obviously, if it's older than just a few hundred years, certainly a few thousand years, then there's serious problems here for the evolutionists. This would not be intrusionally buried 50 feet down in the Dakota sandstone, especially with intervening layers of extremely hard sandstone. Now again, let's remember the implication according to the evolutionist himself. If you find this kind of thing, evolution would be utterly destroyed. I think we have well verified it. But he won't and can't afford to. In the same context in this book, he goes on to say, ironically, it's also the reason why creationists are so keen on the fake human footprints which were carved during the Depression to fool tourists in the dinosaur beds of Texas. And he's heard about our work all the way from Oxford, but of course he has been sitting behind his desk in Oxford. He's not going to come to Texas and look. But he's sure that they're fake. Now, the interest in the footprints might surprise some, because obviously bones would seem to be better evidence, but not really. Because you can erode the bones and redeposit them. They can fall down cracks. But you can't do that with footprints, can you? Footprints are not going to be intrusionally buried. Can't be. You erode them, they're gone. And so this is really better from that standpoint. It completely eliminates the intrusional burial objection. We've been doing work for the past 20 years in Dinosaur Valley State Park down at Glen Rose. And this is the Paluxy River that runs through that park, where there are just literally thousands of dinosaur tracks. If you like a good place to take a vacation, that's a neat spot. Come down and help us dig up some tracks. These were excavated back in the early 40s by Roland T. Byrd. In addition to these depressed tracks, the four-toed big sauropods and the three-toed tracks, you find some, and many actually, that are slightly raised. Now, what in the world's going on here? Wouldn't a footprint be depressed? Yes, the footprint is depressed, and then other material washes in and fills in that depressed track, and sometimes that infill material then becomes harder rock than the surrounding material that the dinosaur stepped in. And that harder rock is then resistant to erosion, and as it's subsequently exposed and erosion exposes it, it's resistant and then is slightly raised. Now that'll be important when we get further into the presentation. We also find tracks that look like this. Well, this one has to be carved. Why? Well, look at it. It's human. And I think we were somewhat intimidated by that. It's just too good to be true, was one explanation. So we looked around for some that weren't quite so good, which we were able to find as well. In the lower right-hand corner,